Part 23. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 221. Chapter 221 Chapter 221 Don't you miss Uncle Fu? Dad, I'm fine. I have something to do when I'm young. After Fu Jianexi left the scene, he used his connections to investigate and found out that the problem was with Fu Qiuachao. What happened to Xiao? Are you injured? Fu Qiuachao said worriedly. I got frightened and suffered some skin injuries. The most dangerous thing today is that when Yuuru is with me. Fu Jianexi's cold voice told how serious the situation was today. Fu Qiuachao had nothing to say. It was indeed his negligence. If I need your help, I will speak up. This kind of thing will not happen again. Dad, send more people to protect you. Brother, if I take action, it won't be that simple. Fu Jianexi left the message and left. After Fu Jianexi left Fu Qiuachao, he did not return directly to Nangziyuan, but went abroad. It was already a week later when Zhang Xiaoxiao saw Fu Jianexi again. Zhang Xiaoxiao and Chu Hanyu each held a meat dog in their hands and walked slowly along the school avenue. 11 It's true that Uncle Fu Wu didn't come back for a week. Chu Hanyu took a bite of the hot dog and looked at Zhang Xiao. She couldn't believe that Uncle Fu would not contact Zhang Xiao for a week. This was so abnormal. Guanyang's hypnosis didn't work. The link sent by Chu Hanyu that night made her remember everything. After adding the system repair, she remembered everything, including the conversation between Guanyang and her. She has been frightened recently, afraid of seeing Guanyang. The boss didn't show up for a week, but she was living a comfortable life. She would play chess with the old man and wander around. She was living a very comfortable life, so it didn't matter if she saw the boss or not. Fifth uncle, maybe he is on a business trip for something. Is there anything strange? Zhang Xiao said nonchalantly. Chu Hanyu raised his eyebrows slightly. You didn't miss Uncle Fu Wu? No. What do I want him to do? Zhang Xiao answered her duplicitously. Chu Hanyu ate the last mouthful of intestines, then threw the lot into the trash can. He stared at Zhang Xiaoxi humbly. Xiaoxi, didn't you think of Uncle Fu Wu when you were sleeping alone in bed at midnight? The tips of Zhang Xi's ears were unnaturally red. She now suspected that Chu Hanyu had installed a monitor in her heart. She knew everything she was thinking. It was simply. Think about it. Chu Hanyu cradled Zhang Xiaoxiao with his arm, with an expression on his face that said, I guessed it right. Zhang Xiao is used to the boss's hugs. It is true that she feels a little lonely when she sleeps alone, and she misses the boss's warm embrace. Children, admit it, you are actually slowly accepting Uncle Fu. Chu Hanyu looked at her gossiping. At this time, Zhang just wanted to keep silent. If she talked about Chu Hanyu, the topic would definitely not end. The two of them walked to the school gate, noisily. From a distance, Zhang Xiaoxiao saw An Nangxuan and Chen Baiking standing not far away. They were both good-looking people, so it was not unusual for them to attract onlookers. This time it was Zhang Xiao who was teasing Chu Hanyu. Tisk, tisk. Both of them have been coming to pick you up for several days. Have you made your choice? Chu Hanyu held Zhang Xiaoxi's arm, showed his white teeth, and said with a smile, Xiao Xiao, can I ride in your car? I miss my grandpa. I want to see grandpa. Unfortunately, I'm walking home today. Zhang Xiao answered her in a bad way. Chu Hanyu. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 222. Chapter 222 Chapter 222 Two men fighting for a woman. Zhang Xiaoxiao looked at her bitter face and smiled. Uncle An didn't like you before, but now that Uncle An sees his heart clearly, do you still want to accept Uncle An? Chu Hanyu frowned and said in a very calm tone, he doesn't like me. He just thinks Chen Baiking is unreliable and doesn't want me to follow Chen Baiking, So he did this on purpose. How do you know? Zhang Xiao was surprised. It was not like in Nangxuan that she knew what he was thinking. Chu Hanyu was like a deflated rubber ball, completely devoid of the excitement just now, and Xiaoxian doesn't have me in his eyes. This is very nice. Jiangxi. This can also be seen. Chu Hanyu continued frustratedly, when I was young, Uncle Fu looked at you like I only have you in my eyes, and no one else has anything to do with him and can't enter his eyes. But in Xiaoxian doesn't have me in his eyes, he felt that it was his responsibility to take care of me. I didn't need this kind of care when I was young, and there was love in Chen Baiking's eyes. Zhang Xiao was confused when he heard what she said. You could see it all. Why couldn't she see this? Are you bullying her for not being in love? I don't know what Chen Baiking is like, but I have heard people say that you must choose someone who loves you, otherwise you will be miserable. Zhang Xiao was talking about what her mother told her, that she must choose a lover. Don't choose someone you like among your own people. If he loves you, you won't be so miserable. It's not that easy to let go of someone when you're young, Chu Hanyu replied bitterly. Jiangxi. So, take a taxi with me when you are young. Chu Hanyu stared at Zhang Xiao with a smile. Zhang Xiao wanted to agree, but seeing the two people getting closer and closer to them, he abandoned his friend. Hanyu, there is nothing I can do. Just when Chu Hanyu was about to say something else, he heard two familiar voices. Nayuniu, I'm here to take you home. Chu Hanyu. Chen Baiking stepped forward and took the book in Chu Hanyu's hand directly, with a gentle voice, I bought your favorite chestnuts and milk tea in the car. Chu Hanyu raised his eyebrows and swallowed, is the milk tea from Dion's house? Well, the chestnut belongs to Suji. Chen Baiking stepped forward and naturally took Chu Hanyu's hand. Chu Hanyu was already tempted by the food, but before he took 2 steps, his other hand was grabbed by someone. Zhang Xiao held his forehead with one hand. In the past few days, there had been a scene at the school gate where 2 men competed for a woman. Nayuniu, what do you want to eat? Uncle An will take you there. It's best to eat less food from strangers and men. And Nangxuan looked at someone pointedly. Chen Baiking always kept a smile on his lips. Nayuniu, make your own choice. I won't be like some people and don't like to have to act like my elders. Chen Baiking's rank is indeed high. With just one sentence, Chu Hanyu can shake off An Nangxuan's hand. The last thing she needs is his sense of responsibility as an elder. Took Chen Baiking's hand and said, Chen Baiking, let's go. Nayuniu, don't be willful. An Nangxuan scolded Chu Hanyu in a low voice. Chu Hanyu really hated his kind of discipline. He looked at An Nangxuan with a cold face and moist eyes, my willfulness has nothing to do with you. I am your elder. An Nangxuan said angrily. What elder, are we related? No, so you have no right to care about me. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 223. Chapter 223. Chapter 223. Do you miss me? Nayuniu and Nangxuan's face turned blue with anger, his lungs were blown up by the little thing in front of him, and his temples were beating hard. Chu Hanyu is really fed up with his attitude of I am your elder, I will treat you well. She doesn't need it. What she wants is his love. If he doesn't want it, she won't force it. I didn't want to talk to him anymore. Talking more would only make the relationship more tense. I took Chen Baiking's hand and walked in the direction where his car was parked. And Nangxuan looked at someone who was in the rebellious stage, pressed his temples with a headache, and said to Zhang Xiaoxi who was standing next to him, Xiaoxi, Uncle An will take you home. Zhang Xiao. She is a picker of things. Uncle An, if you don't like Hanyu, don't. Zhang Xiaoxi swallowed back the last words she wanted to say. This was the first time she saw in Nangsu's sharp eyes. It was a bit scary. Sure enough, she had been here for a long time and almost forgot about the men in the book. Are all masters who are not easy to mess with, all of them are sinister, insidious, vicious, and cruel. Uncle An, how long will it take for Uncle Wu to come back? Zhang Xiaoxi changed the subject. Soon, no need to. Little miss, Mr. Wu is waiting for you in the car. And Nangxuan's words were covered up by Luo Yi's words. Zhang Xiaoxiao looked in his direction as soon as he heard Luo Yi's voice, and his round eyes lit up immediately. Luo Yi, where is my fifth uncle? The car in front. Before Luo Yi raised his hand to help her point the way, he felt a gust of wind blowing in front of him, and then he saw ahead, the Audi door was opened, and a white figure got in. Second master, I will drive first. Fifth master asked you to wait for him in Baikao at night, Luo Yi said to An Nangxuan. And Nangxuan didn't know when he had lit up a cigarette and took a deep puff. I know. In the car. Zhang Shi blinked his bright black eyes and looked at the man in front of him. The man had handsome features, smooth facial contours, his deep eyes were lightly closed, and there was green stubble sprouting from his chin. His whole state looked a little tired. Just when Zhang Xiaoxiao was about to get closer, someone with her eyes closed suddenly opened her eyes. Then she tightened her grip and her whole body was suspended in the air. She was lifted up and then fell onto the boss's lap. Uncle Wu. As soon as Zhang Xiaoxiao called out, there was a rush of hot air on his neck, and then Zhang Xiaoxiao felt a burst of pain. Iffies. Zhang Xiao was frightened and hugged Fu Chenxiao tightly. His voice was weak and trembling from his throat. Uncle Wu, it hurts. Zhang Xiao finished speaking tremblingly. Does it hurt? The pain subsided, and then a tingling feeling came up, and Zhang Xiaoxi trembled all over. Fifth uncle. Fu Chenxiao had been buried in Zhang Xiaoxi's neck for 5 minutes before letting her go. His hoarse voice sounded in her ears. Xiaoxi, I didn't miss Uncle Wu. Uncle Wu, what's wrong with you? Ah dash. Zhang Xiaoxiao's earlobe was bitten, and his domineering and stubborn voice continued. Xiaoxiao, have you missed Uncle Wu? I think about it, Zhang Xiaoxiao answered with a cry. Fifth uncle, I also miss my childhood. Fu Chenxiao's hand. Climb. When you were having with Bei when you were young, did you touch her skin? Skin. Zhang Xiaoxiao's body trembled violently, and he moved his body, trying to leave the boss, but he was warned by the boss. Xiaoxiao, don't let Uncle Wu do anything to you here. Zhang Xiao's face turned pale and he didn't dare to move. Like Crab's comments, when you get used to him hitting you and never leaving, it means you can't live without him, which is also a very scary thing. Thank you for your recommendation vote. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 224. Chapter 224. Chapter 224 makes you worry. Uncle Wu, what's wrong with you? Zhang Xiao's voice trembled. Fu Chenxiao moved his big palm from his back to Zhang Xiaoxi's restless and trembling head, narrowed his eyes and spoke softly and soothingly. Xiaoxiao, don't be afraid, Uncle Wu just wants to hug you. Zhang Xiaoxiao's body was tense and her eyes were red, which made her no longer afraid. His hand had already pinched her Ruanyu restlessly. Homophone, she was afraid of him. Fifth uncle. SHH. Fu Chenxiao, okay, what are you doing? Just don't move, okay. Zhang Xiaoxiao felt as if he had been possessed by a poison when he heard his voice. He really relaxed his body. A pair of fine ones. Bai's little hands hugged the big brother, and his voice sounded coquettish. Uncle Wu, I miss you so much. You haven't told me where you have been these past few days. A faint smile appeared on Fu Chenxiao's tired face. I made you worry. The man's hoarse and magnetic voice brushed into the airs, and Jiang Shi's heart began to tremble, his heart beat faster, and he felt an indescribable emotion. Did she really not miss him these days when the boss left? No matter what she thought, when she saw him and heard him say those words that made you worried, her heart instantly felt filled to the brim. Fu Chenxiao hugged Zhang Xiaoxiao and did not let her go until he returned to Nangziyuan. It's 1 hour, Uncle Wu's company still has something to do, you go back first. Fu Chenxiao sat in the car, his cold eyes full of soft light. Zhang Xiao pursed his lips, lowered his delicate eyebrows, and stared at Fu Chenxiao with aggrieved eyes in his dark eyes. Fifth uncle, don't you go back with me. Fu Chenxiao looked at her little appearance, his thin lips curled up slightly. Be good, my fifth uncle will be back in the evening. Oh, Zhang Xiaoxiao pouted. My unhappiness was very obvious on his face. I watched Fu Chenxiao's car drive away before walking into Nangzi courtyard. Entered the hall, took off his coat and handed it to the servant next to him, then went to the study to find the old man. He couldn't wait to tell the old man the news of Fu Chenxiao's return. Grandpa, the fifth uncle is back. Xiao Xiao, come and help Grandpa see how to make this move. The old man was concentrating on his chessboard and didn't even hear what Zhang Xiao was saying. Zhang Xiao walked over, took a look at the game on the chessboard, thought about it for a few minutes, and then helped the old man make a move. The old man clapped his thigh excitedly. Why didn't I think that I could leave like this? My good grandson is still smart. Lao Zhu, you are definitely going to lose. Butler Zhu touched his thick gray hair and took a step forward with a frown on his face. Young lady, please be merciful and don't let me lose too ugly. Zhang Xiao grinned, showing his white and neat teeth. Grandpa Zhu, don't worry, I will make your loss not ugly. Zhu Guanjia. Half an hour later, Butler Zhu put the chessboard away with a sigh, and did not forget to praise Zhang Xiaoxiao. Little miss, your chess skills are worthy of being taught by the fifth master. It is amazing. Zhang Xiaoxiao smiled. Although her chess skills were not taught by the boss, she felt inexplicably proud when she heard someone praise the boss. Grandpa Zhu, my fifth uncle's chess skills were not taught by Grandpa. Grandpa is the best. Zhang Xiaoxiao blew the old man's rainbow fart in disguise. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 225. Chapter 225. Chapter 225. Winking. When the old man heard Zhang Xiao's words, he laughed out loud. Xiao Xiao, you are going to hit Grandpa to the sky. Yes, Grandpa, you are the most powerful in my heart. Jiang's mouth was as sweet as honey when he was young. The old man smiled so hard that he couldn't close his mouth. Okay, stop flattering Grandpa. What did you just say? Your fifth uncle is back, why didn't you see him? Zhang Xiaoxiao helped Butler Zhu pack his things, turned back and looked at the old man and replied, Grandpa, the fifth uncle is going back to the company first. Humph! The old man snorted coldly, you bastard, you don't even know how to come back and take a look first when you're back. Grandpa, the fifth uncle must have something very important. I saw the dark circles under his eyes are as good as those of a national treasure. He looks haggard and has lost a lot of weight. Zhang Xiaoxiao helped Fu Chenxiao speak. The old man said with a smile on his face, you can help your fifth uncle speak for you when you are young. This brat like him has disappeared without a trace for so long. I don't know, I thought he died outside. Although the old man's words were unpleasant, Zhang Xiaoxiao could tell that the old man was worried about Fu Chenxiao. He was a typical talkative person, but he was actually very worried about Fu Chenxiao. Grandpa, don't be angry and make yourself angry. Then your uncle and aunt will say that your fifth uncle didn't take good care of you. Zhang Xiaoxiao comforted the old man. The old man snorted twice, and just as he was about to stand up, Zhang Xiaoxiao came over to support him. Grandpa, if you want to go there, I will go with you. When you were young, did you have a boyfriend? Zhang Shi. He is a child from that family. Does Grandpa know him? The old man asked two questions in a row, which stunned Zhang Xiao. His round black eyes looked at the old man blankly. Grandpa, what are you talking about? The old man winked at Zhang Xiao, but said nothing. Zhang Xiao. What's going on? She doesn't understand at all. Grandpa, what's wrong with me? Zhang Xiaoxi really couldn't figure out what the old man meant. The old man saw that he had been winking for a long time and Zhang Xiao didn't understand. He coughed twice and pointed at his neck with a slight embarrassment. When I was young, Grandpa still understands you young people. Zhang Xiaoxi suddenly understood, his face turned red on the spot, and he touched his neck subconsciously. He was so shy that he explained, Grandpa, I don't have anyone to talk to, no. Zhang Xiaoxi's shy appearance made the old man even more sure that she was secretly dating her boyfriend. He winked at Zhang Xiaoxi and deliberately lowered his voice, Xiao, don't worry, Grandpa won't tell your fifth uncle. Grandpa is open, show your boyfriend to Grandpa sometime. Zhang Xiao strongly denied it, Grandpa, I really didn't. When you were young, you still couldn't trust Grandpa. Grandpa knows that you are young now, and if you fall deeply in love, you will be unable to extricate yourself. Ahem, Grandpa is not pedantic, as long as it is not too much, Grandpa can understand. Zhang Xiao completely shut up in the face of the old man's wink and these words. She knew that she couldn't explain clearly, and it was all because of the big man's stubborn bite on her neck. He reluctantly held his arm with the old man and said, Grandpa, don't you want to go out for a walk? The old man took 2 steps forward with his cane, then stopped and said, Child, you really don't want to let Grandpa see it. Grandpa promises that he will never tell your fifth uncle. We will keep it secret. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 226. Chapter 226. Chapter 226. I won't help you. Zhang Xiao. She never knew that the old man would be so gossipy. Grandpa, I'll tell you when the time is right, okay, don't ask. Zhang Shi almost knelt down with the old man. Okay, Grandpa understands, so I won't ask any more. The old man laughed and continued to walk forward. Zhang Xiao. Grandpa, what do you know? If I tell you that this tooth mark was bitten by your son, I'm afraid you will die on the spot. Zhang walked around the garden with the old man a few times when he was young, and then went upstairs to do his homework. Fu Chenxiu had not come back until dinner time. Zhang Xiao was biting his chopsticks absent-mindedly and looked at the gate countless times. Seeing her frowning like this, the old man felt dissatisfied with Fu Chenxiu. Young man, stop looking and eat well. Zhang Xiao bit his chopsticks, looked away from the door, and looked at the old man. Grandpa, I'm done eating. I'll go upstairs to do my homework first. You should go to bed early after eating. This meal is not available yet. The old man looked at the basically untouched rice in Zhang Xiaoxiu's bowl, then looked at Zhang Xiaoxiu's figure on the stairs, and sighed helplessly, even your fifth uncle has to eat the food too. Zhang Xiao ran back to his room in one breath, picked up the mobile phone on the bedside table, opened the address book, paused on Fu Chenxiu's phone for a moment, then took a deep breath and dialed out. The soft music on the phone connection sounded in Zhang Shi's ears. As the music ended, the man's low-alcohol magnetic voice brushed into his ears, "Our." Zhang Xiaoxiu's heart was beating fast and rhythmically, and his cheeks had turned red without knowing it. He calmed down for a few seconds and said, "Uncle Wu, Grandpa and I are waiting for you to eat. You and Grandpa will eat first, and Uncle Wu will be back later. It's already so late, you have to come back later." Zhang Xiao's voice was filled with a sense of loss. She thought he had already handled the matter, but she didn't expect that he hadn't yet. During dinner, she didn't see the sense of loss expressed in his heart. "You go to bed first," Fujianexai calmed her down. Zhang Xiao was silent for a while and then said dully, "Uncle Wu, you didn't see Grandpa the first time you came back. Grandpa was angry. Be careful that Grandpa will deal with you when you come back. If he takes care of me, will you help?" Fujianexai looked at the scenery outside the building happily, leaving a lot of senior executives there to be stunned. They find it rare to see their president smile and speak so gently. Except for Zhang Xiao, who raised her single-handedly, no one else can receive such gentle treatment from him. The senior executives were all secretly guessing which woman had the ability to make the president answer the phone in such an important meeting. "Of course I will, help Grandpa teach you a lesson." Zhang Xiao raised the corners of his mouth and replied in a faint tone. Fujianexai smiled softly, "Are you willing to do it?" Zhang Xiao. Why can't she bear to come? She doesn't feel sorry for him. "I won't tell you anymore, hang up." Zhang Xiao hung up the phone in confusion, wrapped himself in a quilt, his cheeks were so hot that he could have fried an egg. Fujianexai looked at the phone with a black screen, raised the corners of his mouth, and whispered, "You're a duplicitous little thing." Looking at his boss's appearance, Luo Yi knew that the call was made by Zhang Xiaoxi, and only Zhang Xiaoxi could touch Master Wu's heart. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 227. Chapter 227. Chapter 227. Kill the chicken and respect the monkey. The fifth master is still the kind of person who is willing to work harder to solve the work at hand without wasting the fifth master's time. President, Ningguo's losses have been calculated, totaling 20 billion. When the person from the finance department said this, his throat tightened. What is the concept of 20 billion? It can support several of them with the Fu Group's income for a year. When such a major thing happens, it can be said that these people they are doing, everyone has a responsibility. If Fujianexai hadn't turned the tide, I would be afraid. Foreign branches will close down. Yeah, Fujianexai just responded lightly. His expression did not change at all. It was difficult for people to see the emotion on his face. It was impossible to guess what he was thinking. None of the supervisors sitting on both sides of the conference room dared to take a breath. "Fifth Master, here we come." Luo Yi lowered his head and said in Fujianexai's ear. Fujianexai sat back on the boss's chair, tapping the glass surface of his watch with one hand, scanning the people sitting with his sharp wolf-like eyes, and said in a cold voice, "Let them come in." As soon as Fujianexai finished speaking, the door to the conference room was opened, and a dozen men in uniforms walked in. "Li Li, you have been accused of stealing trade secrets. Please come with me now." "Wang Zhoucheng, you have been accused of embezzlement of public funds. Please come with us now." "Chen Yu, you." After a while, nearly 10 people in the senior management were arrested, and the remaining supervisors who were not arrested were all grateful that they were not implicated. Waiting for those people to be taken away, Luo Yi spoke on behalf of Fujianexai. "If you want to do anything or have any other ideas in your mind, you can weigh it in your mind. These people are just warnings." Luo Yi's words sent shivers down the backs of many people. Nasir, who was arrested just now, may not be able to get out for a while. He stole business secrets. Even if you are a capable person, you may not be able to get out. The company dares to ask you to start your own business and want to live in the capital of Ruchen. As soon as the Fu family opens your mouth, you will not be able to live in the capital. It can be said that you have no future. Everyone did not even dare to breathe heavily and looked at Fujianexai cautiously. It took a long time before one of the older shareholders spoke. "Chenqiu, you, Uncle Huang, and I are getting old, and I can't help you young people with many things. I want to step aside and enjoy the joy of the heavenly wheel." A man who looked to be 60 years old at most spoke. Luo Yi was like Fu Chenxiu's mouth, conveying his call, Huang Lao, since you want to enjoy the happiness of family, then I hope you enjoy it well. We will help you with the burden of the company, and your fifth master is naturally indispensable. The meaning of Luo Yi's words is obvious to everyone. Just waiting for these old bones to speak and killing the chicken to show the monkey, Fu Chenxiu can still save enough face for them. One person had already spoken, and the people behind were naturally not all fools. They also found various excuses, saying that they were either sick or lacked energy, and they all retired. After all these people had finished speaking, Fu Chenxiu opened his mouth and said two words, "The meeting is dismissed." A meeting is a major shake-up of the company. Ningguo Company's secrets were stolen, and the economic loss was as high as 20 billion. It's not that the company's top executives had no access to confidential documents, but they were just killing the chicken to respect the monkey. This is the most merciful thing the president has ever done. Luo Yi couldn't help but sneered when he heard what these people said. Benevolence, these two words are not in the fifth master's dictionary. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 228. Chapter 228 Chapter 228 Duplicity. Fu Chenxiu finished handling the company's affairs and returned to Nangziyuan. It was already midnight. I didn't want to alarm anyone, so I prepared to go upstairs to discredit him. Have the company's affairs been settled? With the old man's voice, the hall was suddenly brightly lit. Fu Chenxiu looked at the old man sitting not far away expressionlessly and said, "Dad, are you still awake? Wait for you. The company's affairs have been taken care of. You don't need to worry." Fu Chenxiu answered his previous question. The old man frowned and stared at him with cloudy but sharp eyes. "The loss of 20 billion cannot be just caused by your brother's people. There are other people. Have you found any clues?" "I found something. I helped deal with some of the people at my brother's place. Your old friends still want you to go and take a walk. I understand, it doesn't matter where your brother is. You have to find out who is targeting the Fu family. I'm afraid this is just the beginning. You have to be prepared." The old man looked serious. "Yes," Fu Chenxiu responded lightly. The old man glanced at the clock on the wall, walked up to his room, and said as he walked, "Go upstairs and check the clock." During the meal today, the little girl kept stretching her head and looking at the door to see if you were back. There was no food. Eat as much as you want. The little girl has a deep relationship with you, so don't be too strict with her, otherwise you will be unable to recover the little girl's feelings for you. Fu Chenxiu frowned slightly and walked upstairs in silence. Jiangxi has been waiting for the boss and has not fallen into deep sleep. After being in a daze for a while, she heard heavy footsteps approaching her step by step. Her heart started to beat wildly, and her big eyes like black glass suddenly opened brightly in the dark night. "I have expectations in my heart, is it him?" "Our." The man's low-pitched voice sounded extraordinarily loud in the silent room. Almost as soon as she heard his voice, Zhang Xiaoxi had already exposed her head from under the quilt, looking at the man standing beside her bed with a pair of big bright eyes. The man's temperament was dignified and cold, as deep and three-dimensional as a knife. With a handsome face, his dark eyes stared down at her deeply, as if he wanted to her into his eyeballs. Zhang Xiao was stunned for a while, then gently moved his lips. "Uncle Wu, are you back?" Well, Fu Chenxiu half squinted his cold eyes and sat down on the edge of her bed. He stared at Zhang Xiaoxiu's bright eyes with deep eyes and stroked half of her face with one hand. "Why are you still up so late?" Zhang Xiao pouted, his eyelids drooped slightly, and he blinked his bright eyes. There was dissatisfaction with him in his voice. "Uncle Wu, why did you come back so late?" Fu Chenxiu frowned, pinched her cheek with his fingers, and said in a gentle tone, "Didn't I tell you not to wait for me?" I'm not waiting for you. Zhang Xiaoxi twisted to avoid the attack. You are a duplicitous little girl. Fu Chenxiao stared at her with a smile on his lips. Zhang Xiao shyly hid in his bed and stopped looking. Fu Chenxiao smiled helplessly, feeling very satisfied. After being away for a few days, the little girl's attitude towards him was different, and he didn't know if she had enlightened herself. Don't cover your head with the quilt. Uncle Wu will take a shower and then sleep with you. When Zhang was in bed, his cheeks suddenly turned red and he whispered secretly, "Who wants you to sleep with me?" End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 229. Chapter 229. Chapter 229. She was moved. Fu Chenxiao came out of the bathroom to wash up. He looked at someone on the bed who had wrapped himself in a quilt. A helpless smile appeared on his stern face. Then he lay down next to him and pulled a corner of the quilt. He said in a pitiful voice, "When I was little, do you want Uncle Wu to freeze to death?" Wrapped in a quilt, Zhang Xiaoxiao listened to the pitiful voice of the boss, and the compassion in his heart suddenly overflowed. When the boss came back, his face was haggard, and his eyes were obviously dark. He must have not slept well and was alone. It's really not a good idea to monopolize the quilt, so why don't you give him some? Zhang Xiao was thinking this, and suddenly another voice of opposition appeared. He could go back to his own room to sleep, and no one would the quilt from him. Give him a little and let him go back to his room to sleep. Two thoughts were fighting in her heart. Ah, sneeze. With the sound of someone catching a cold, her second thought disappeared completely. She handed over half of the quilt and pushed it aside. "Here you go." Fu Chenxiao's smile deepened. With a slight movement and a movement of his long arms, Zhang Xiao was pulled into a warm embrace and his earlobe was kissed. Zhang Xiao's little body suddenly stiffened because she felt. "When I was young, Uncle Wu missed you, did you know? Why does a man become hoarse?" The seductive voice rang in his ears, making Zhang Xiao lose his thoughts. Just when she lost time to think, her brain was still in a hazy and chaotic state. The feeling of pain made Zhang Shizi take a breath of cold air. Zhang Xiao didn't know whether she fell asleep at night or fell asleep the next morning. What was certain was that someone was very energetic. Anyway, when she opened her eyes, the sun was already high in the sky. "I'm awake, why don't you go back to sleep for a while?" Someone's voice was hoarse and full of excitement. Zhang Xiaoxiao was so shy that she couldn't meet anyone. She was really depraved. She didn't reject the boss, but she was so obedient. Damn it, how could she be obedient? Zhang Xiao bit his lip in annoyance. "Are you feeling uncomfortable?" Fu Chen muttered without touching her smooth forehead. Zhang Xiao subconsciously wanted to avoid his close contact. Fu Chenxiao frowned, stared at his smooth forehead with dark eyes, and said in a low voice, "It's very uncomfortable. Do you want to deal with it?" Zhang Xiao pursed his lips and remained silent. Maybe it was uncomfortable the first time or the second time, but this time it didn't feel right. She wasn't saying she was angry with the boss, she was just angry with herself. The matter between a man and a woman, under the circumstances of both parties, is a matter of course, and she accepts it so naturally. No matter whether she is with any of them, the boss, Wen Yuru and Mo Zhangxiang, she has the situation with the boss now. It's not good to have the feeling that I'm a little kid. "Uncle Wu, I think I'll just be alone." "Okay." Zhang was very confused when he was young and needed time to think things through. Fu Chenxiao looked at Zhang Xiaoxiao with deep eyes, his eyebrows furrowed, and he was silent for a while before speaking. "I'll call you after lunch." Fu Chenxiao was willing to give her time to slowly figure it out. Zhang was lying on the bed when she was young, looking at the ceiling and feeling confused. She seemed to have fallen in love with Fu Jianxiu. She fell in love with the person who was the least likely to fall in love with him. She was attracted. Her attitude towards the boss said everything. She missed him after not seeing him for a week, and she was excited when she saw him. Even in that aspect, she did not refuse. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 230. Chapter 230. Chapter 230. I don't know what to do. When she saw him, whether he was with Wenyuru or Mo Zhangxiang, there was a fire of jealousy in her heart, which would burn all her reason and leave only jealousy. She will be inexplicably emotional, but what to do? She can't be tempted or be with the boss. In the original book, the boss is with Mo Zhangxiang. Before he fell in love with Mo Zhangxiang, he liked Bai Yueguang. No matter it was no one, that person can't be her. The people in the book, no matter how the content develops, in the end the author will be with whomever he writes about being with. This book is still a popular unfinished book, and there are a lot of CP fans of the male and female protagonists. Her ending in this book was predestined a long time ago. As long as she was alive, she didn't know what the direction of the novel would be. Zhang Xiao was confused and didn't know what to do. Should he hide this feeling in his heart and let the people who were supposed to be together in the book be together? Or should he express this feeling, admit it, and be brave with the boss? At the same time, no matter what the author writes, she is a person who wears books. No matter what the author writes, he cannot control her soul. Fu Jianxiu was sitting in the living room, his eyebrows tightly knitted all the time. He would look at the watch in his hand from time to time. When the hand of the watch in his hand pointed to 12 o'clock, he put down the newspaper in his hand and stood upright. He got up, stopped as soon as he took a step, and stared at the people coming downstairs without moving. Zhang Xiao was wearing a black woolen coat, with soft hair scattered on both sides of his face, and a pink face. He walked towards him and called him obediently, "Uncle Wu." Fu Jianxiu frowned fiercely. The little girl's voice contained the meaning of complete alienation and clear boundaries, which was completely different from the soft voice of the fifth uncle last night. Fu Jianxiu really couldn't figure out what the little girl was thinking. Just like now, in just a short while, the little girl's attitude changed completely, which gave him a very bad feeling. The boss's dark eyes were staring at her, and Zhang Xiaoxiao felt very guilty. She figured out that even if she was really tempted, she would only keep this feeling in her heart. She could not disturb the order in this book. The hero should be with the heroine, this is the law. She is just a passerby, then do what a passerby should do. "Uncle Wu, I won't have lunch. The teacher just called me and asked me to participate in a school competition. He said that there is a quota for admission, and I may go for 2 days." As soon as Zhang Xiaoxiao finished speaking, the aura around the boss could be said to have changed in that second. His sharp cold eyes were fixed, and his voice was cold, "I've been away for 2 days." Zhang Xiao was frightened by the long-tail tone of the big man's voice, and his face turned pale. When the big man spoke like this, he must be angry. "You are not allowed to go." With the boss's commanding tone, Zhang Xiaoxiao knew that she would not want to go out today. When she came down, she obediently called him as usual, and it became easier to talk. "Fifth uncle." Zhang Xiaoxiao bit his lip and looked at the boss with misty eyes. Fu Jianxiu acted as if he hadn't seen him. "Put down your things and come with me to the company. Where I am, you will be there." "Zhang Shi. You bastard, why did you let Xiao Xiao follow you to the company and not let her go to school? I can hear you. There is a quota for admission. You are trying to delay her future." End of this chapter.